Welcome back to another passive income portfolio update, showing all of the income I receive outside of my work salary. What I'm trying to do on this channel is to build a portfolio of cash flow generating assets that pay me each month, and these monthly videos show how I'm progressing. In this video, I'll give you an update on the dividends I received in November and my dividend stock portfolio in general, including exactly how I spent a pretty hefty £4,722 on stocks over the month. I'll also discuss my premium bonds and the results of the November prize draw. And finally, I'll run through my income and expenditure for my real estate investments. Let's get straight into the numbers. Firstly, looking at my dividends. In November, I received £88.95 from 5 different companies. November is one of my lower months. The amount that I received is slightly lower than the amount I received in November last year, when I received £93.83. Comparing last year's November dividends to this year's, I haven't sold out of any positions, but BAE paid me in November last year, but will pay again in December this year. So how do my dividends look if we zoom out and look at the totals? This graph shows how much I'd received at this point during the last few years. From January to November in 2023, I'd received £1,525.68. But from January to November this year, I've received £510.16 more, with a total of £2,035.84 so far. I really enjoyed looking back at prior years and seeing how far I've come, as it keeps me motivated to continue what I'm doing into the future. And if we look at this graph, which shows the overall dividend totals each year, we can see that my 2024 total so far is £223.69 more than the entire total of 2023, which again is really pleasing to see. This graph shows all of the monthly dividends that I've ever received, and we can see that the numbers have been increasing year on year as I keep contributing and reinvesting my dividends. You can also see that my largest payment months are March, June, September and December, and because of these monthly fluctuations, I just prefer to focus on monthly averages when I'm tracking my progress, rather than individual months. So for 2024, I'm currently averaging £185.08 a month, which is above my 2023 average of £151.01. If we look at the average at this point last year, we can see that it was £138.70. So it's really motivating to see that the year-to-date average has increased by £46.38 a month. However, due to the monthly fluctuations, to get a more accurate analysis of the average, I'll have to wait and see what the full year average ends up as. All dividends received are always reinvested back into the portfolio to buy more shares that will pay more dividends, and then I just allow the compounding process to do its work. Now let's have a deeper look at my stock portfolio that generates these dividends. It currently stands at £77,013 invested. This has jumped up a lot since last month, when I had £72,291 invested. Being fully transparent as always, here are all of my positions, showing all unrealised gains and losses. I have added a new holding to my portfolio, which I'll talk about later, along with what else I've been buying. Let's now look at how much I deposited into my portfolio over November. Sorry if this is getting boring, but I've again added another £1,667. There's just one deposit left to make until the end of the year, and if I can deposit the same amount as I've been doing, I will have invested £20,000 over the calendar year, something that I've never done before. My long-term goal is to consistently deposit £20,000 per tax year and max out my ISA allowance. With the November deposit, I now have £3,246 in cash. In last month's video, I mentioned that I had £6,244 in cash, which I felt was getting a bit high. So me putting half of that into the market over November has caused this to drop. Holding cash isn't too much of a bad thing for me, as I use Trading 212 as my brokerage, and they pay 4.9% in interest on uninvested cash, which is paid daily. So over November, I did earn £12.95 in interest on my cash position. In total, I've been paid £149.71 in interest on uninvested cash this year. This is a nice amount to receive for money that would have just sat there doing nothing. Let's now look at how my total amount invested in the market has grown from zero over time, using this graph. The graph continues its upward trend as I keep buying every month and reinvesting all dividends. And due to the heavy spend this month, you can see a sharp incline. I always want to reiterate that I don't do anything fancy or clever. I make a deliberate effort to reduce expenditure and increase my income. Then I pay myself first by contributing every month when I get paid my salary. And I reinvest every penny that I get in dividends. These regular contributions and dividend reinvestments are a key part of my overall strategy to keep feeding the portfolio, which increases my dividends and accelerates the compounding process. Let's have a look at the stocks that I've been buying over November. It's been a month of heavy spending, with £4,722 added to the market. I spent around £1,000 on 50 shares of EUHD. I spent around £500 on 12 shares of Realty Income. I spent another £500 on 15 shares of VOOC. And I've actually added a new position this month, spending nearly £2,700 on QYLP, the Global X Nasdaq Covered Call ETF. I did a recent video where I talk about adding some risk into my portfolio through QYLP, which is a high dividend ETF and has a yield of over 10%. Feel free to check out that video if you're interested in my thought process behind the purchase. All of these buys will add around £387 to my yearly dividend total, quite a substantial increase. After these purchases, this means that the overall yield for my portfolio as a whole currently sits at 3.95%, which has increased a lot since my last update last month when it was 3.67%. This is just due to the higher yield purchases made in the month. This yield equates to around £3,039 per year in predicted dividends, £253 per month, £58 per week, and £8.33 a day. And you can see how much this has increased by since last month's update as I keep building brick by brick. It's nice to push through another threshold target of £250 per month. And the next stop is £300 per month. And to hit that at the current yield of 3.95%, I'll need an invested total of £91,229. There will always be a discrepancy between my actual dividends received and my predicted dividends, just due to the timing of me purchasing shares and then being eligible through the ex-date of the dividends. I hold all of my shares in the Trading 212 app using a stocks and shares ISA, which means that all capital gains and dividends are tax-free, as I'm based in the UK. Another benefit is that you can earn 4.9% per year on all uninvested cash, and it's paid daily. If you're interested in starting your own investing journey with Trading 212, I do have a link in the description where you can use my code, and we'll both get a free fractional share worth up to £100 or €100. And if you wanted to, you can just sell that share straight away and pocket the cash. So let's now have a look at how I'm comparing to my forecast. Over November, I forecast to add £1,667, and as mentioned earlier, I have contributed that amount again. 11 out of 11 completed so far with the deposits. There are only two things that I need to do to hit my targets. Number one is contribute £1,667 each month, and two is reinvest all dividends. And moving on to the dividends, I forecasted to receive £108 and actually received £89, so it's £19 lower than forecast. And if we add up my invested total plus my cash total, this comes to £80,259. My target for the end of the year was to hit 80k, so I've managed to do this with 1 month to go, something I'm obviously really pleased with. Finishing the year with around 80k invested means that going into 2025, the portfolio will be generating a dividend of around £250 per month. The next goal is to hit 100k by the end of 2025, so I think I'm progressing well to achieve this. Doing this forecast really does motivate me. I like to look at what this portfolio could become in the future if I just keep contributing and reinvesting my dividends. By the end of 2028, I could have a portfolio generating nearly £500 a month in dividends, which would be amazing for me and my family. Let's now have a look at what I received for my premium bonds in the November prize draw. I didn't win anything last month, so I went into the November draw with £17,550 invested of the £50,000 maximum that you're allowed. I'm on a bit of a losing run now, stretching 3 months without a prize. And sadly, once again, my luck wasn't in this month either. I'm okay with that though, as these premium bonds are my emergency fund, and the prizes are never guaranteed. Hopefully I can have an early Christmas present in the December draw. I also invest in real estate and currently rent out 2 buy-to-let properties and a secure car parking space. So over November, this is what the numbers look like. I received £2,025 in rental income, I get £775 per month for the 1-bedroom flat, and I get £1,250 per month for the 2-bedroom flat. I also get £80 a month for renting out the parking space. However, this was the last payment of the contract, as the person who rents the space doesn't need it anymore, so vacated this month. It's currently being marketed, so hopefully I'll get a new tenant soon. The management fee has stayed the same as it's based on the income received, and the mortgage has also stayed the same. Now onto the repairs and maintenance. I've had the call that all landlords dread, the management agency telling me about a broken boiler. The engineer went round and determined that the boiler was 19 years old, and it had cost £400 to fix, or £1,800 to install a brand new boiler. Just due to the age of the boiler, I felt that a temporary fix would only prolong the inevitable of having it replaced, so decided to just pay the £1,800 to install a shiny new boiler. This cost is classed as an allowable expense, so it can just be deducted from the rental income when I'm working out my tax liability. It's a big outlay this month, but will hopefully lower the risk of any issues in the future. So my loss over November is £605.22. That concludes my monthly update, and this is the summary for the month, with a loss of £503.32. This is the first month of the year that I'm actually loss-making, just due to the new boiler on one of the flats. I do document my investing journey on this channel, and you can see how this has been progressing if you go back and watch some of my earlier videos. If you are interested in following along, please subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss any future updates. And if you have enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, as it does help the channel out a lot, and it's something that I really do appreciate. So I hope I've covered everything that you wanted to hear, but if not, feel free to drop me a question in the comments section below. I'll be reading and responding to every message that I can. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.